Well, let's go back to the beginning when you were a youngster. So you've been chief of Old Lycoming Police Department. You were chief deputy coroner, obviously sheriff. You've been very active in different positions with the fire department. What did you want to be when you were a youngster?
I've made the statement a number of times that I was the little boy who grew up and became everything a little boy wants to be. I was able to be a police officer with a number of hats in the police department: corporal, sergeant, detective, chief of police. I was able to be a fireman and a fire department lieutenant, captain, assistant chief for a very long time. I was able to be a member of the coroner's office, where I was a part-time deputy coroner, then I was part-time chief deputy coroner, then I became chief deputy coroner full-time with the county. And then I was privileged to be asked by then Sheriff Brewer, who was my successor, my predecessor, who asked me if I would be willing to consider becoming sheriff. I turned him down twice, and then I finally made the decision to do it. So I guess I have to answer it from the sense of I've been able to help people in a whole lot of ways, in all kinds of different venues, as a police instructor, as a fire academy instructor, and with all the training that I've been able to get, I've been blessed. I think it's almost been a mission. It's almost like it was God meant for me to help people as much as I can, and honestly, that's where I get the most enjoyment of what I've done all these years. I've been able to help people indirectly, directly. Sometimes I can't, help people to fix a problem that they have, but I've taken a lot of pride in having many people from many walks of life come to me and say, "Hey, can you help me? I couldn't get help here. I couldn't get help there."
Okay. And how has being a first responder and all these various careers changed through your 50-year career?
Oh boy. Regulation first. We are tremendously overregulated. In all those walks of life I just described a couple minutes ago to you, Karen, I have just seen regulation after regulation after regulation. We're regulating volunteers out of business. And I'll give the pitch for volunteers. Any of those that are listening, we need volunteer fire personnel tremendously. The volunteer fire service of Pennsylvania is in dire straits. We had about 300,000 of us probably 20 to less than 30 years ago. Today we have about 30,000 of us. And that's a statistic that comes from the State Fire Academy. The regulations, when I became an EMT, it was an 84-hour class. An EMT class now is about 250 hours. A big difference of going every Tuesday and Thursday to going for a few months to every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for a year. The reporting, an incident report on an ambulance call used to be one page. You could have just one page. Now it's a connected dots form that's just pages and pages and pages and pages. And it's very challenging for volunteers to be expected to do that and have that level of training. Fire training, and I'm not saying it's not needed. I'm not saying that volunteers shouldn't be trained to be EMTs and be trained well, but there has to be a better happy medium, because nobody has come up with a solution on staffing. And if there's one service you don't want to be in a situation in when you have an emergency at your house, it's when the fire department can't get there. and the fire departments get there now with very limited staffing for the most part. There are some companies that are very blessed, but for the most part, you can just listen to the dispatch and you can hear the repeat dispatch after dispatch for more help, more help, more help. So regulation across the board, regulation at the county level, regulation in the sheriff's office. We seem to throw regulations at how to fix problems, and it just requires more and more and more mandates as far as the time you need. There's only so many hours in a day. The time that you need, whether you're a sheriff or you're an administrator in any walk of life. And I'm sure in some ways, if I were interviewing you, I'm sure in the newspaper business, life has changed as far as what you have to do and how much you have to do to get it done. We are completely overregulated, and I think that's been the greatest change of what I've seen.
Okay. Talk about the change in technology. Is it
tremendous?
Good and bad that comes with that?
For the most part, very good. I mentioned on the law enforcement side, the ability for forensics to be as advanced as forensics is now, tremendous. DNA has completely changed how we can identify those offenders. It used to be you had to do it with a fingerprint identification, and it would take years. If I sent your fingerprints, let's say I had fingerprints at a crime scene and you were the suspect, but I didn't know you were the suspect. I have these fingerprints I lifted, but I don't know who you are. Let's say there were fingerprints on file from you committing a crime 10 years prior. This is before DNA. It would take several years for a fingerprint analyst to be able to identify your particular fingerprint card with what they have on file. We now have something called AFIS that can match fingerprints electronically very quickly. DNA has given exact matches in incredible ways. One-on-one, only you have your DNA, like only you have your fingerprints. So technology, in the form of how we process, of how we capture incidents, camera systems like we have here, the ability to look and watch and see, to capture in-car camera information, cameras that officers wear, has been very, very helpful. The downside to better technology has been that it's costly. Much technology is considerably costly, and you have to weigh the benefit of the technology versus the cost of the technology. But for the most part, better training with that technology, better training for officers, let's say law enforcement officers, safety, better technique in training with safety, how to enter buildings, qualifying at the range, the tactical side of our operation. The technology and the increased enhancement we have for law enforcement officers has made leaps and bounds strides, and has really benefited us as far as officer safety.
You've led this area through many natural disasters, most notably floods, the 96, 2011, most recently in Trout Run. What can you say about your time leading the area and the resiliency of the people in this area throughout these disasters? What have you learned from those experiences?
I've learned that the residents and the first responders and local government, for the most part, really kick in. We join together. We all have areas of expertise that we are able to bring to the table. And I think what I enjoy the most is we make things happen. Government's not known for making things happen too often. When I arrive at a scene, when I hear about a flooding incident, I know someone now has been flooded and they're in trouble. It's been a hallmark of mine that I go. I leave this desk and I go and I ask my residents and constituents and victims, most importantly, what can I do to help? I'm here. And I've been able to work in many situations. I try to add up how many command operations I've been part of in my career. I started with Hurricane Agnes in September of 1975. It was my first big incident where I was green and I was just a helper. And that was the first one. Eloise came after Agnes, and from there I probably have been involved in about 15 or 20 flooding incidents. Major flooding incidents, probably at least, I would say 5. I have found that when you help people come together and you help to become a cohesive operation, it works really well. And I think one of my strengths is I'm a good leader, I believe, because I can facilitate. I can coordinate. Sometimes you get good because practice makes perfect. And I think that's been, I'm not a rocket scientist by any means, but I'm able to arrive at a scene or have somebody call me, or someone will say, you need to call Sheriff Lusk. And take a county resource at the county level and bring to bear whatever resources I can get from the county. I'm very fortunate from the sense of, if I pick up a phone, if I'm at a major incident, I pick up a phone and I need to call a commissioner or a fellow elected row officer or a private sector individual, an individual who owns a company that maybe makes certain supplies, gloves or paper products. I can pick up that phone and I can make a call, and we'll get what we need in a really big way. I don't do that by myself. There are many others that can do that. I'm just one of the facilitators and command staff that is able to bring resources that we need in, and then have a great amount of people who make it all happen. I don't make it all happen. I'm just Sheriff Mark Lusk, but people step forward and they're willing to do what they need to do, and I think that's one of my greatest joys of this county. When there's something that happens in this county, I'm known for being there. I'm known for arriving and doing what I can do. That's what we should be doing. We should be doing that, and we do when I go to these flooding incidents. We should be helping each other, and that's what I should be doing, and that's what government should be doing. We should be offering as much help as we can provide to those who are victimized, and I think we do that really well in this county.
What are some, aside from the flooding, what are some other things you're most proud of throughout your career, whether it was in your firefighting days or police officer days?
I'm most proud of the fact that my family has always endured what I have. I guess neglect is not a good word. When I've not been there, I can't tell you how many times that we've had, a fire on New Year's Eve. We've had a major incident, crime scene incident on 4th of July. The holidays that, not just myself, but the holidays that those of us in emergency services, both career and volunteer, that we aren't home. We miss whole holidays. And my family has tolerated that and never stopped sharing the love they have with myself or that I have for them. Seldom ever complain. Dad has to go. Dad can't be here. Dad won't be here. The birthdays, the anniversaries, the picnics. I hate to miss picnics. I love food. But I think family comes first and foremost. If I hadn't had people who were close to me, and family is at the top, I wouldn't be where I am. If I go back, you mentioned, Karen, earlier in my career, back when I was in high school, and I became a little intern at Old Lycoming PD in 1975. A faculty member at Lusk by the name of Ronald Warden. Ronald Warden was a an American cultures and world cultures teacher. He had the space program, senior professional and career experience program. I was able as a senior, although I was the senior class president, very busy with government at school, I was able to go into a program that academic seniors with enough credits to graduate were able to go out in the field. And many of us did that. I'll give you an example. Not only did I go out in the field to a field that I had grown a love for early in my life, police work, but a classmate of mine, and you may know the name, by the name of Tom Woodruff. Tom was a classmate of mine. We were close, and he goes into making monsters and animals. And of course, back in school, we all laughed and made fun. Well, Tom showed us, because he becomes a very high-profile Hollywood expert in special effects, and brings home, he's now back home after being out there his entire adult life for the most part. He and Timmy moved back home, his high school sweetheart from Losac, and he brings back the Oscar. We were able, those of us that went out in the field were able to do that, and I did that at Old Lycoming, and Mr. Warren gets credit for that. Chief Casale gets credit because he allowed me to come into that department, and he allowed me, in my 25 years as my chief, allowed me to grow and get training and be as active as I was in the police department and in the fire department, because I was in the fire department laterally when I was in the police department. Those two gentlemen got me to where I needed to be. And then I had help from a guy named Chuck Kiesling, our coroner. Chuck was my captain at the fire department. I was his chief. I had the opportunity to come to the county full-time. He got the full-time chief deputy coroner position. So I came here, and then Sheriff Charlie Brewer becomes probably the number 4 in my life that just changed my life for me, wanting me to come, asking me to come, wanting me to become the sheriff. So family first, and then those 4 gentlemen.
Okay. I was going to ask you about your mentors, but you seem like you kind of already named them.
Good men, every one of them, solid good men. Two I miss. Mr. Warren passed away in 2016, and Chief Casillas passed away last September. But major inroads in my life that took me in a direction that I don't think I would have ever gone. I say to folks, and I say to young people when I speak to young people about careers, don't discount a career opportunity that you think you don't want to do, because most of us end up in a career from when we're young. Most of us end up in a career we never expect to be in. There are a few people in life that say at 15 or 16 or 18, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be this. Most of the time we end up someplace in today, in real time today, someplace we never thought we'd be. And that's one of my many speeches I give the students who are looking for careers.
Tell me about some of the things, the rewarding aspect of your career that came out of that sacrifice with the time with your family.
I delivered a baby in the field. That was quite an experience. I actually can say I delivered a baby and a half, because I was the number 2 partner in helping deliver the second baby. I have, in my many years active in EMS, I've had victims who've passed away under my care before we get to the hospital, where I've been the last person they speak to. But I've also had those that I believed I had a hand in saving their lives. Extremely rewarding to have been able to do that. Protection of our children. I took great pride as a police detective. And one of my specializations, one was fire arson investigation. I was nationally certified in, and I'm certified in Lycoming County Courts as an expert witness. I don't do investigations anymore unless somebody wants me to dig, because they want me to help dig out a fire. But I have a certification in child abuse and child sexual abuse, and I've put a number of perpetrators in prison, including state prison, for victimizing our children. some heinous crimes where they've, injured them intentionally. And I've taken great pride in helping to promote safety with our kids, and help to provide programs where our kids feel safe and interact with our children, so our children aren't afraid to come forward. I go back in the day when a lot of abuse wasn't reported. It was closeted. It didn't come out. We didn't talk about it. I've taken, with this office and my staff, a very proactive approach in getting to know our children and doing programs with our children. The Lycoming County Fair is a perfect example. Across from the ticket booth, we have the sheriff's jail, and I had it designed to look like something from Marshal Matt Dillon from Gunsmoke, and we partnered with the Fair Association, and with non-taxpayers' dollars, we were able to pay for, I think, a little less than half of that building, and we made the front end a sheriff's jail for kids to come in and have fun and get their picture taken behind the bars. The back half of that building that few people know about is a command operation. It is a command operation that ties in all areas of the fair. There wasn't a lot of coordination between frequencies and who talks to who. We man that during the fair hours, and the fair office can talk to the command post. The command post can talk to the maintenance people. The fair field supervisors can talk to the office. EMS can talk to the office. You also can talk to EMS. We can talk to fire rescue, and in our command operation, we talk directly to 911 when we have a skirmish or a fight, which is seldom. Which is interesting because once we set up shop there, and once we begin to staff the fair, people will come up to us and say how comfortable they feel because their kids can walk that fairground. Because we don't put up with it. We don't put up with nonsense. If you're going to come to the fair and you're going to create a problem, you're coming to the wrong fair, because we are going to deal with it and deal with it decisively. Similar to what we do at the courthouse. Come into the courthouse, and we know sometimes emotions run high, and we try to manage people, and we do very well. Staff of the sheriff's office and the staff that work hand in hand with me and my supervisors, we diffuse a whole lot of situations and seldom have to make an arrest. But we don't tolerate what I call nonsense. No shenanigans. And the fair is a really good example of how we interact with our kids, including the programs we do. We invented the COVID-19 drive-by birthdays. Incredible program. It was one of the positive highlights of COVID-19, because our kids were shut-ins. They couldn't have parties. So we invented a way around it without violating what was, the governor's law, and do drive-bys and stop and do a quick picture and provide them with some nice things for their birthday. And we get calls today from those parents who still thank us for doing that. It's thinking out of the box. It's thinking how you can help the people, and you can get along with the public and help the public when they need help. And I think sometimes we forget that in government. I don't forget it. I don't ever forget where my roots were. Anybody who knows me today will tell you, and Mark can certainly nod his head, I'm the same guy I was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. I love having fun. I'm a jokester. I can be really serious. I can kick in, the serious side of the command sheriff. But I have a creed here, and that is work hard but have fun. If you don't like where you work, you don't like what you're doing, you're not going to be productive. You're going to go home at the end of the day, and you're not going to be happy. I tell staff all the time, don't leave here unhappy. Don't leave here and ruin your night. Come in and see me before you go. Once you ruin your night, you've lost the night, you'll never get it back. So it's a good mix.
What advice would you give young people who want to go into either law enforcement or be a first responder, public servant of some sort?
Make sure you get your education. Make sure you get at least at least graduate from high school and get your GED, an associate degree, and your 4-year degree. Apply. You can always turn down the position you're offered. You can't turn down a position that you don't apply for. Test as much as you can. Interact as much as you can when you're testing. Interview as much as you can, because practice makes perfect. Too much of that doesn't go on today. This has created a major stumbling block in how some young people communicate, because it's all done there. They'll sit at dinner, I'll sit in a restaurant, and they'll be communicating to each other. I'll see a table next to us where one of the youngsters of the family is communicating to this youngster by texting. You still have to have the ability in law enforcement to talk. You can't get by. Drives me nuts that applications now are electronic for the most part. Not in our business. We want to talk to you. We want to see how you think. We want to hear how you react. We want to hear how you rationalize. We want to see how well you put two sentences together and how well you can write. And I look at applications. You don't get points if you submit an application and this happens, and I find you've scratched out an answer or scratched out because you made a mistake. Be very aggressive when you're looking for a position and apply everywhere. I said it earlier and I'll say it again. You can turn down a position that you applied for. You can't turn down a position you didn't apply for.
I guess what's next for you?
Interesting. I've been asked to be everything from a tax collector or school board director to the president of the United States. I don't know. This is unique for me. I've never not worked 2 jobs or 3 jobs. I started very young. I learned how to work at a pizza shop. For those that might watch this will remember Mr. Pizza on the Golden Strip. Jack and Dolores Yost hired me, and I worked there for a couple years before I graduated. And they taught me how to work hard, and that I did. And I have worked hard since. I can tell you this, I'm not one to sit still. I won't sit on a couch. I have a lot of folks saying, a lot of friends saying, and even some family saying, what are you going to do? I have a busy enough operation at the house. I have a big property. I have a lot of work there to do, but I'm never not helping. I can see myself in the next, hopefully it doesn't happen, but Lycoming County is geographically designed that we're going to have high water. I can see myself showing up at another flooding incident as the retired sheriff and helping. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm blessed to have been healthy. I'm blessed to have done 50 years in this business. And one thing I'm really bad at saying no when somebody calls me. I don't do well with that. Sometimes to a fault.
After 50 years, why now? Why step away now?
Well, I'm 64. I'm sorry, I'm 66. I wish I were 64, maybe. The time is right. When you seek office, our election cycle is a 4-year cycle. I believe that myself, that if I were to seek re-election and be re-elected, be fortunate enough to have the public support me and my constituents support me, I believe I'd be obligated to be here for 4 years. Most people who work can decide I'm going to go in 6 months or work, and then all of a sudden next year say I'm going to retire, I just don't want to work anymore. I believe I should be here for the 4 years. So I believe that if I would seek re-election, I would be serving another 4 years. Another 4 years puts me over 70. We don't live forever. And a phrase that I've used, I want to retire to die. I don't want to die to retire. And it's just, the timing is right. It's time to slow down. I'm comfortable in my operation, that my operation is going to be fine. The sheriff's office is going to be fine. The staff in this office are incredible. The deputy unit is incredible. The clerical unit is incredible. My supervisory staff are incredible. And they'll do very well here. And it just gives me the opportunity to maybe walk away. Maybe this may sound like a corny phrase, but it's at the top of my form, at the top of my game. I'm very blessed. I'm blessed that the public has supported me like it has. You know, I've been able to garner 80 or 90% of the vote in the county, even with opponents. It's almost corny, but it's like I go places and it's like I'm a celebrity. This is my sheriff. You know, it's really a nice feeling to have someone say, "This is my sheriff," and that's how they look at us. Because all my staff, if you look at my deputies' uniforms, they don't say deputy sheriff; they say sheriff, because they represent the office of sheriff, and we're all the sheriff. I've been very blessed with the public and the support I've gotten from the public, and I don't believe I should seek another term and then decide to leave a year out. If I would stay, and if I would run and I would be reelected, I would be just over 71 at the end of that 4 years. That's a long time in law enforcement. Our life expectancy isn't tremendously great. The pressures of law enforcement are very, very, very tough. And I feel good at the point where I am in life. My successes aren't, you know, this interview is for me. You know, you're interviewing me to have me give maybe my life story in a manner of speaking. But there's so many people that I'm indebted to who have helped me in so many ways. I've just had huge support in this county from so many people. I'm so grateful through my campaigns, the people that came forward to help me in so many ways. Folks that come in just to pop in here and want to talk, just want to thank me for something I've done or see how I'm doing, how I've been. My CV that I provided to you, I didn't just write that this past year. I've actually kept that almost like a diary since 1975, and I have brought that from each career that I've been part of. And everything you see there's a story behind every single entry, as far as how I got to where I was. I can't be grateful enough on the rewards that I've had. My connections with the Sun-Gazette through the years. I'll give you a little anecdote. You know, I've always said, and I teach a lot of classes. I teach a lot of, I don't teach journalism, but I teach public information officer and how to interact with media. And I've always said to fire chiefs, police chiefs, to leaders when I teach leadership, why would you fight with media? Why don't you, if you don't like something they've done, and I've had that happen, why would you cut off your nose to spite your face? You won't get front page print. You can't buy front page print. You'll get front page print from incidents that occur that you're part of, that you're willing to speak about. And I've always done that. I've always done that in fire, rescue, EMS, police, coroner, sheriff. I've always not been shy to speak because it's always building bridges. It's always about building bridges. My dad taught me long ago. My stepfather taught me long ago. It's easier to rebuild a bridge that's not been burned than it is to build a bridge that's been completely burned. And I think one of the successes for anyone who's going to enjoy any of these careers that I've been part of is go out and help people. Help people along the way, because you never know when you're going to be rewarded in kind from that person. I'll give you one quick story. Long ago, I was working as a patrolman in old Lycoming, and fast forward, I run my first election, and I'm way up in Trout Run, Bodines Mountain Road, Trout Mountain Road, one of those rural roads, and I'm walking, and I'm going door to door. And I knock on the door, and the individual comes to the door, and he gives me the look up and down, and I'm in a suit. I introduce myself as Mark Lusk, candidate for Lycoming County Sheriff, and I give him my speech like I would, and I have for thousands of people. And he pauses, and when they pause, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if you're going to get, I know you were a policeman, you gave me a ticket, you did this, you did this. You don't know what they're going to say. Is it going to be something good or bad or neutral? And he looks at me and he says, he points at me. Now I really got to figure out what's going to happen. As he points at me, he says, I know you. And I said, I apologize, but I don't know you. And he said, long ago. And I'm thinking, here we go. I ran out of gas on the Beltway. And that was when the Beltway stopped at Foy Avenue. That was before it's extended through Lycoming. He said it was one night, it was about midnight, and I was up on the Beltway above Confer Bottling. It was Confer Bottling then, the Pepsi plant. And he said, I had run out of gas. And he said, along, you come in your police car, and it was pouring down rain. It was after midnight. He said, I was on my way home from work, and he said, you took me with you back to your township building. You got an empty can, and you took me to the gas station, and I didn't even have any money, and you bought gas for that can and put it in my car. And he said, I never forgot that. And he said, you have my support. The message isn't that I did anything special. The message is, when you help people, I'm a firm believer that you get to help in return. And that's what I've enjoyed in all my careers that I've done. All the people that have crossed my path, whether it was in a fire, devastation in a fire, it was somebody they lost as a loved one that passed away at home. If it was a situation where I was involved in some kind of incident that was good or bad, I've always tried to be positive and help people whenever I could. And those folks, and the folks that were my leaders as I came through the various careers I've been part of, have been tremendous help to me, as have at my county level, my fellow row officers, the commissioners. I don't always agree with my commissioners. They'll tell you that. I'm fairly candid about my opinions, but I help a lot. And even though I may have problems at times, or we may have issues with each other, I'm always a good soldier and always stand behind what we try to do in government. But I have a whole lot of people to thank for being where I am today, and I'm very proud to say that, through all these careers that I've been part of since I was a little young, snot-nosed police officer, I have a lot of people to thank, and I'm going to thank the Sun-Gazette for doing the interview.
Thank you. We want to thank you for sitting down with us, and thank you for your years of service to our community, and good luck in your retirement.
Thank you.